The Fast Pound, Slow Pound podcast is where we speak to successful business owners and entrepreneurs about their challenges, their journey, and how they've got to where they are today. And with that said, let's get into the podcast. Dave, how you doing, mate?
Very well, thank you, buddy.
Good,
Very
man.
well.
So we just had a quick chat off this, but you've got £4 million worth of property, and you're a business owner. But before we get to that point, take us back.
Take us back. So where did it all begin? It was a long time ago now, Matty. You were a twinkle in your dad's eye. But yeah, grew up in Billingham, Stockton-on-Tees, obviously, which is my investment area now. But yeah, mum and dad were from pit villages in County Durham. My dad's from Wingate, my mum was from Crook, which you've probably heard of both of them, probably know both of them.
Only through like property, you probably wouldn't know them because they're good investment areas, aren't they?
Well, exactly, yeah. And I'm surprised how many people have heard of Crook, because it's a tiny little pit village, as you know. You can get houses for 30, 40 grand still. I think they'll always be 30, 40 grand, to be honest. But so that's where my mum's from. They got married. They had a quite a successful paint and decorating business. Right. So I had a really good childhood, really nice life. Mum and dad unfortunately split up when I was about 11. Real bad divorce, and life changed dramatically. All of a sudden went from having a really, really good life to looking back, like struggling. I was living with my mum. So my mum became all of a sudden overnight like a single mum of 3 parents.
Wow. Yeah.
So life suddenly became very, very different. And it was difficult, I guess, age 11, 12 I'd never been told no, I couldn't have anything type of thing. And then all of a sudden, we had nothing. And then I was noticing, like little things you just remember, it's weird. Looking back at birthdays and Christmas and thinking, God, I've got hardly any presents this year.
Wow.
Really weird. Looking back, we didn't really think about it at the time.
No.
But that's some of my first memories of that. Bloody hell, this birthday's shite. It was miles better last year.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So went to live with my dad, then back with my mum, and then with my dad, back with my mum. Bit of a messed up teen period, I would say. But looking back, I think all that drama and what went on really taught me the value of money. And I think that's why I am the way I am today, because I tasted what it was like to have a good life. Don't get me wrong, we weren't rich, but we had nice clothes and, birthdays and Christmases, a holiday every year to Ibiza with the family, to then having very little. So I think that taught me what it was like on both sides of the coin, and it made me realise the importance of money and how money affects. Money doesn't make you happy, but money affects every area of your life, and it certainly enhances your life. There's no doubt about it.
100%,
so, obviously, health is number one, but after that, family, and then it's money, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've got mates and stuff who've had like similar situations where the parents have split, but they would have like double the amount of presents and stuff. Like, I didn't expect for us to go down this way.
It's a bit of a therapy session. Yeah. Have you got any tissues? That became the case eventually, but we didn't speak to my dad.
Right.
My dad was at fault for the divorce. It was real. That was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. We went from being like this. Outsiders would look in and see us as a perfect family. Yeah. Just shit hit the fan, mate. Basically, it was a horrible, horrible divorce. Anyway, so there was only one set of presents because we didn't speak to my dad, and then eventually started getting back into my dad's life. Actually lived with him for a little bit. It was horrible with him and his new missus, and then back to my mum. So there was a period where we got 2 lots of presents. I haven't spoken to my dad now for 22 years.
Right, okay,
like
yeah.
He lives local. I see him, drive past him every now and then. And he's just made no effort to speak to me and my sister, so I'm not bothered.
That's crazy. Yeah, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, not something I've spoken about much, to be honest. But it's been the making of me. So don't look back on it with any negative connotations at all. It makes you who you are today.
It's that mindset, isn't it? It can either do well or not, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And it taught me a lot of harsh lessons. And I think I've had a chip on my shoulder since that happened, to be honest. And I think that helps. I felt like I've had something to prove, because when your dad leaves your life and then doesn't bother to get in touch with you, it does make you feel unwanted. Yeah. Like, So I think from that day, I felt like, fuck you. I want to prove not just to him, to the world that you're worthy.
Yeah.
As deep as that sounds.
Yeah, obviously David just unpacked quite a bit there. So do you think you are driven, based on what we just spoke about, by fear?
Yeah, like I say, I've had a chip on my shoulder. I think looking back, I've had a massive chip on my shoulder since that sort of period. I think I was always, even before my mum and dad split up, I was always quite a driven lad anyway. When I was a youngster, I used to go around the sites with my dad, delivering paint, because he had like a number of paint and decorators working for him. So we used to deliver paint to the sites, and I used to be fascinated by the new buildings that were getting put up, whether it be new build houses or commercial building, whatever. It was only a tiny little business he had, but it was just fascinating. I wanted to know everything about the buildings, how they were built, the way they were, what materials they were using. And my dad couldn't answer that half the time, so he'd get one of the site managers or the quantity surveyor at the time to explain things to me. So
How old were you then?
I was sort of 9, 10.
Wow.
I just remember sitting in the front of my dad. My dad had a little Citroen Berlingo van, and I'd just sit in the front and ask him, just peck his head. I must have done his head. It's probably why he doesn't talk to me now. But yeah, it's certainly given me a chip on my shoulder. And if you look back at most successful people, not that I consider myself successful, by the way, but if you look at people that are really doing big things, none of them have had an easy upbringing. There's always been something that's gone wrong, like some tragedy or as you overcome obstacles in life, you get more successful, you get stronger, don't you? So I think a bit of drive and a bit of the drive, I should say, is from fear. Yeah, fear of going back to those days and having no money, because I know what it's like to have no money, but also driven by the fact that I saw what it was like to have money, and now I'm lucky enough to be financially in a very good position, and I want to keep that going.
Who was Dave in secondary school?
Just obsessed with cricket and football.
Sports?
Yeah, just sports. Rubbish at school. Went to a good school, didn't get very good grades at all. Wasn't interested. Every school report was has the ability, doesn't have the interest.
Same as mine.
Yeah, and I used to just stare out the window and just think about I'm a Tottenham supporter for my sins, so I used to stare out the window and think about who Tottenham were going to sign and what my formation would be, and I just had no interest whatsoever.
Did you have your dad in your life at that point? Was he keeping you accountable?
Yeah, I was living with him for a couple of years. He had no interest. He was just obsessed with his new missus and his life. So even when I was living with him, I didn't feel that was part of his life. He just didn't want to know. Wow. It was a very lonely period, actually. I had a girlfriend at the time, so that was, I think that got me through it. I was very close with her and her family. So yeah, and then I moved back, saw the errors of my ways, and moved back in with my mum when I was about...
What do you mean, errors of your ways?
15. Moving in with my dad. I kept falling out with my mum.
Right.
Because when you're a teenager and you go through a bad divorce with your parents, you don't understand what's going on. Now I do, obviously. But I was blaming my mum for stuff because she was the only one. I was so close to my dad. I was a lad's lad, like I think we all are. I know the relationship you've got with your dad. And I was a lot closer to my dad, I would say, because of my sport. He took me to sports games and everything. So I went to live with him and blamed my mum for everything, even though everything was my dad's fault. Do
you think you were just looking for someone to blame about?
I was, yeah. I was looking for an excuse for it not to be my dad's fault because I wanted to be with my dad. You know what I mean? So, and then soon realised that he didn't want me as part of his life, so moved back in with my mum.
So that's where you're like 15, 16-year-old?
Yeah, about 16. I just finished secondary school and I moved back with my mum, yeah.
So what are you thinking of doing at that point?
Not a clue. I knew then I was going to work for myself at some point, and I knew I was going to be successful, but I was going to give it a good go at being successful at something. I had a massive chip on my shoulder, like huge chip on my shoulder. Obviously, we're full of testosterone, aren't we? We're full of drive, but no direction. Didn't know which way to go. Didn't have a penny to scratch my arse with. I was sleeping in a box room at my mum's in a single bed.
It's most lads at 15, 16, or are we talking a bit earlier? We're talking a bit later on now.
Yeah, sort of 16, 17. Passed my driving test. I was in the box room at my mum's till about 18, 19, and then she moved to another house which had a bigger bedroom, so I had a bit of a bigger bedroom then. Then I bought my first house when I was 19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and flipped it. So I spent a bit of time there. And then I moved out pretty young. I think 21, 22 I moved out. So
19-year-old, you bought your first house?
I did, yeah.
Let's go there. Yeah.
2 up, 2 down in Norton.
So why did you even think of buying a house at 19? Everyone's going on out for nights out,
yeah,
raving.
Yeah, I was always a bit of a weirdo like that. And the continuation of my obsession with construction and building from my days on site with my dad, that continued. And then all of a sudden, property investment became a thing on telly. I don't know.
What year was that?
So it would have been sort of early 2000s.
Right.
So Sarah Beanie had a show called Property Ladder. I don't know whether you remember it.
No.
So Sarah Beanie was the first sort of programme. Homes Under the Hammer sort of followed on from Property Ladder. And Sarah Beanie's programme, Property Ladder, it was people who bought houses, renovated them and sold them on, so flipped them. And they always just made huge profits, because obviously they just cherry-picked the good deals. A bit like Instagram now. I fancied the arse off Sarah Beanie, so that helped. But also it was a good show.
Yeah.
And that just got me hooked, because the obsession with property and construction was already there. And then this TV programme came on, and there was a few little spin-offs that she had from that programme, but also there's a few other property programmes that followed on from that, like Homes Under the Hammer. And I just got obsessed. And then my cousin, Jill, she'd bought a house in Norton for 85 grand. Next door came up for 55 grand. So, don't have to be a rocket scientist. I thought, hang on a minute. So she actually rang me and said, the for sale sign's just gone up, you should ring them. So I rang the agent, went down, met the lad who was selling it. House was wrecked, absolutely wrecked.
Did that put you off, or did that...
No.
Like this what to look for?
No, because all the properties on Property Ladder that I'd seen where they'd made money, that was the kind of state they were in to start off with.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I walked around, I was just like, oh my God, I want it. So I negotiated with a lad, paid full asking price. Yeah. So I've always been a good negotiator. So paid 55 for it. I can't, maybe it's 53 or 50, whatever. Spent 7 grand on the refurb, did everything myself, ripped it out. Even tried plastering myself, joinery, horrendous. It was the worst refurb on record. There was an old Baxi boiler with a metal case. The boiler needed changing out. It was 30-year-old. Yeah. I painted it with Hammerite, and it looked fresh. Yeah. I painted the bathroom tiles. The bathroom tiles were like orange and blue. I remember I painted them white. Horrendous.
No one guiding you at this point either.
Nobody.
Because a lot of people would get some sort of education or mentorship or a course before they've done stuff.
Yeah,
like
nothing. No.
Builder.
No, I was just. My attitude's always been, and it still is today, I'll give anything a go.
Yeah.
And learn while I'm doing it. Learn from my mistakes. Probably not the quickest way or the cheapest way to do it, but I've always felt throughout my life, you learn from other people's mistakes, but you don't really take anything on board unless it hits your wallet. Yeah. That's from my point of view.
You need to feel some type of pain, don't
you? Do.
Like, I'm like
that.
And
if something costs you hundreds or thousands of pounds, you're learning that lesson. Just even small things like parking in the wrong place, you get a 60 quid fine. You're not going to park there again, are you?
Well, it's funny you say that. It's actually not... I actually physically need to go through, like, not physically, but sort of emotionally need to go through the pain. A parking fine doesn't put me off for some reason. I seem to get every other month.
Because you've got too much money, that's why.
Something like that, yeah.
but did this bodge refurb. Then I got introduced to a lad, Chris, who was a plasterer, and came and finished the plastering off and did the bits for me, and I painted it myself. Got carpets down from Frank's or wherever, didn't know anyone, and sold it for 85. So I made what was a huge... I had like 30 grand in my bank.
Yeah.
I'd never had 30 grand. 30 grand didn't register to me.
So how did you actually finance the initial...
So I was working as an apprentice at the Steelworks at the time, at Redcar Steelworks, just started. It was like £40 a week or whatever. But I started working overtime. There was just so much work at the Steelworks at the time, so I was just working night after night after night. I just lived there. And even though I was on apprentice wages, when I worked overtime, you got an uplift, a massive uplift. So just saved enough to buy a deposit, and then bought a Lotus Elise car instead of buying a house.
Yeah.
I soon learned sort of a year, I was paying about £4,000 a year insurance because of my age, under my mum's name. So I was down as a name driver. Anyway, soon learned that was a mistake, sold that, and then bought the house.
Yeah, but with the mortgage, like, did you
Yeah, 2-year fixed mortgage.
2-year fixed mortgage.
With Barclays, with Woolwich at Barclays. Didn't know any different. Early repayment charge was £500. I basically used a 2-year fixed mortgage as bridging finance.
Yeah.
Which I know is frowned upon.
A bit naughty now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well, it was naughty then. I just didn't know. I didn't know anything.
Ignorance is bliss.
Of course it is, yeah. So sold that pretty sharpish. Moved in it while it was going through conveyancing. Learned pretty quickly how frustrating the conveyancing process is. But I had a great time while I was living there anyway. So it was just magnolia walls, brown carpets back in the day.
So were the banks giving anyone loans at that point? Because like a £40 a week apprentice, like, wouldn't get touched now, would they?
No, my mum had to go as a guarantor on the mortgage. But yeah, it was so much easier then. It was just Barclays were my bank, and my mum. It was more on a relationship basis back then. We're talking more than 20 years ago. And the relationship my mum had with Barclays, her friends all worked there. It was that type of thing that assisted you in your lending. Now it's all on the numbers, and it's totally changed. Now, it used to be go in, sit with your bank manager and have a coffee and say, "Can I lend this? Can I lend that?"
Yeah. You could self-certify, couldn't you, up until about 08 or 09?
Oh, of course you could. Yeah, it was a different world, mate. It was a completely different world. No stamp duty to pay. Legal fees were pence. But I was just obsessed. The whole refurb, I was there. I was there doing it myself. I used to come off nights at the steelworks at 6 o'clock in the morning, drive straight to the property, work for 2 or 3 hours until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. Then I made a bed out of plaster bags, so like a double bed. So 2 plaster bags all the way up, and then one higher at the end from a pillow. And I'd just get my head down 2 or 3 hours on the plaster bags, wake up. I think it was like April, May time. Wake up and then get grafting again, and then just put my head down on the plaster bags whenever I fancied it. I was loving it.
Yeah,
covered in muck and dust, and I was obsessed with it.
Is that how you, when you were in, say, secondary school? Is that how you envisioned your life? Is that how you saw yourself? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking. Because I saw myself in an office, so I went down that route. You know, like I studied as an accountant. So did you see yourself as being like on the tools and working in your own? I
saw myself as being in an office, definitely. I was always better with my brain than I was my hands. And to this day now, I'm not hands-on at all. I'm not very good at doing DIY or anything like that. It was just a necessity. I didn't have the money to pay people. Yeah. I lended money off my mum to pay for the trades that I did get in. Not all of it, but she lent me $1,000 or $2,000, I think. Because she could see what the house was going to be worth. Nothing to do with the refurb, by the way. It was just purely the way the market was going.
Was the right move and stuff at that point?
Yeah, there was right move, mate. Yeah, there was right move. It was very early. It was on dial-up. It wasn't on your phone. Yeah. It was on dial-up. But no, you'd go to the agent and look in the window. Good old days. Yeah. But no, it's not in secondary school. To be honest with you, I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a clue until I started in property. Sort of full time, which was late 20s, I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. Didn't know where I was going to go.
You went travelling, didn't you?
Yeah, I went travelling. So actually, that's when I left. I left England age 28 and went backpacking around Asia. My best friend was going, and I just thought that now was the opportunity to do it. I'd done a few swings offshore in the North Sea. So basically, the steelworks shut. I got made redundant. Got a good lump of cash. About 8 or 9 grand out of it. Plus, I got a training course to fly ROVs, so submersible robots. Right. So went offshore in the UK, about 4 or 5 swings offshore, doing pipeline surveys with this robot. Didn't have a clue what I was doing.
No, that sounds a bit mad.
Yeah.
A bit random.
Again, it was quite a hands-on job because if the robot broke down, you'd be fixing hydraulics, you'd be fixing electronics. I was just learning on the job. I just winged it.
So I was just thinking there, like if you saw yourself in an office, but then you went to the steelworks, is that because there was no office work?
Just followed the money. Followed the money. Yeah. Every office job I looked at.
Didn't you fancy yourself as a profession, like an accountancy or a lawyer or?
No, hated education. Absolutely hated being sat in a classroom, and I still do today. It's just it's not my sort of. It's not where I want to be. It's not where I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable in industry and in the working world type of thing. Yeah, I'm very much office based now. Yeah, but all my jobs were pretty much hands on. and the steelworks it was part of the time. Offshore was very hands-on. I was just following that. I didn't want to be offshore, and I didn't want to work with robots. It was just the money attracted me. I had a couple of mates doing it, and the money just attracted me. So did a few swings in England, then went backpacking in Australia. Backpacked around, and then thought, right, I'm going to go to Perth on the west coast and see if I can get some offshore work. There was a massive energy boom at the time, mining and oil and gas. So I put my CV about. I lied on my CV and said I'd done 20 trips offshore instead of 5, as you do, as everybody does. By this time, I was skint. I had about £500 in my bank.
So you'd done. So have you got any more properties at this point?
Yes. When I left for Australia, I had 2 or 3 properties.
So you'd flip one and you'd
so I flipped 2, flipped one, made 30 grand or just short of 30 grand.
You must have been living a good life.
Oh, I was living the dream, mate. Did another flip, only made sort of 10 or 12 grand on that, but it was still a lot of money to me at the time.
Yeah, 40 quid a week.
Exactly.
40 quid a week.
I went and did a crash course in plastering and plastered the whole house myself.
Nice.
Which looked okay, to be fair.
Yeah.
Probably not looking back, but did everything myself on that one. Flipped that, sold that, and then I bought 2 new build properties, which were the worst purchases.
Yeah.
Absolute. I mean, they're still not worth what I paid for them today. Property market crashed, and I was
Whereabouts are the new build?
Ingleby Barwick. And Ingleby Barwick at the time was tiny compared to what it is now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So they've not seen the growth in that period to
Zero.
get back up to.
No.
Wow, really?
No, it still wouldn't be worth what I paid for it probably because they were new builds, so they were inflated anyway.
Yeah.
And then the property market crashed, and I was just like, property's crap. I hate property. You lose money in property.
So we're talking 08 now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when I went away backpacking. I thought, but looking back, it was I had cash in the bank. I should have said.
Are them properties in Ingleby, like at the time, were their cash flowing or they've been paying down?
Well, I lived in one of them was my house. It was a 4-bedroom house in Ingleby. The other one was a 1-bed apartment, gorgeous apartment. Paid 82 for it. It's worth 60 now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Worst investment ever.
Yeah.
It's cash flowed.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it has cash flowed, but capital value, it's horrendous. I can't sell it. I
think that's where the education part would have been beneficial, wouldn't it? Because you probably wouldn't have bought.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. I would have. Looking back though, I probably wouldn't have gone travelling because someone would have. If I got educated, someone would have said, "David, the property market's crashed. Now's the time to buy." But I did the opposite. I was like, "Oh, the property market's crashed. It's ruined. Property's knackered for years. I'm going." So I went backpacking, and then things wouldn't have turned out the way they did. But I got to Australia, got to Perth, and I had 500 quid left, and I was sending my CV out to info@subsea7.com, who were the biggest ROV company in the world, info@oceaneering.com. Probably wasn't even getting read.
Yeah.
And then it was a Tuesday. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was Tuesday lunchtime, like midday, 40 degrees in Perth. And we're in the city centre, me and my best mate John from Wales, who I'd met in Sydney. My best mate in Australia at the time. I was like, mate, I'm going home. I've got enough money for my flight home, that's it. That's all I've got. I'll go and stay at my mum's or my mate's and I'll get a job at home. And he was just like, don't do it. Just give it another month. And I was like, mate, I was sleeping on my mate's floor in Australia. He's just like, just give it, just stick it out. He said, come on, let's go for a pint. So I was like, I'll go for a pint.
If in doubt.
Exactly, yeah. So we're in this, the Boheme Cafe, which is knocked down now in Perth City Centre. Tuesday lunchtime, the city was empty. And we're in this big sort of what you would describe as a beer garden on the front of the pub, I would say. And we sat down at this table, and we were the only people in the pub. You could have got 400 people in the beer garden. And this little old man walks past with a little yellow carrier bag of DVDs and said, with a Kiwi accent, he said, can I sit with you? Can I sit with you guys? We were like, yeah, of course. You know what we like from the Northeast, we'll talk about anyone, won't we? So he sat down and he's talking away, and I said, oh, what are you doing in Perth then? Quite clearly from New Zealand. I said, what are you doing in Perth? He said, oh, my helicopter's been delayed, there's a cyclone up north. I said, oh, do you work offshore? And he said, oh, yeah. I said, what do you do, mate? He said, I'm head of engineering for Subsea 7. It's an ROV company, you won't have heard of them. And I was like, am I dreaming?
Yeah.
Like this is bizarre.
Yeah.
So I said, what are you drinking, mate? So anyway, cut long story short, I had about 7 or 8 pints with him.
I can imagine that really though when you think about it.
Mate, the city was empty.
Mad.
Like Perth on a weekend, it's quite busy, but during the day, everyone's at work, it's just dead. And this little guy, I never would have said hello to him, but he came and sat with us. I look at and I tell you this story out loud now, and I've done it on previous podcast. It almost sounds ridiculous. But
Mad.
anyway, I had 7 or 8 pints with him. And he said, Raymond Knight, his name is, I still email him now. And he gave me an email, a personal email at paul.gordon@subsea7.com. So that was a Tuesday. I got home, woke up hungover on the Wednesday, emailed this Paul and said, "Hi mate, this is my CV. I'm a friend of Ray Knight." My phone rang, honestly, Matty, 20 minutes later. So I'm sat on my sofa, hungover, looking at flights home, and my phone rang. "Hi David, can you go offshore Friday?"
Quality.
I was like, right. He said, "Get yourself down the shops, get yourself some safety gear because you'll be coming off as a contractor, not employed by us, blah, blah, blah."
You must have been buzzing at that point.
Oh, I was over the moon, mate.
Yeah.
So I had no money, and he said it'd be $1,500 for 4 days. 4 days, $1,500. Get in there. I'm back in the game.
Yeah.
So I thought, it's a nice little trip. So got offshore, I was sat with the lads, and it soon became apparent, because I said, "Oh, well, the money's brilliant for 4 days, $1,500. And they were like, "That's per day."
Wow.
I was like, so it was $1,500 per day. And the Australian dollar was really strong at the time. So it was about £1,100 per day. And I was clueless.
Yeah.
And it soon became apparent I was clueless because I'd lied in my CV. Because I got on with all the lads, they just carried me.
Yeah.
And they just, it was a lot of cricket, all Australians. So it was a lot of cricket banter. And obviously I played cricket. So I just got on with everyone. And they kept me there. They wanted to keep me there. One of the lads got flown off, and they said, "Oh, will you sit in his place?" So that week, that 4 days became like 4 weeks. So I came home with gross 50 grand.
Yeah, you buckled.
Absolutely buckled, mate.
Yeah.
Treated myself to a nice little Hyundai XL 1997 rust bucket. And just bizarre. My life changed dramatically that day. So drinking's good for you.
Yeah, moral of the story, basically.
Exactly.
So you're at home now at this point, and you've got 3 properties.
Yeah.
Where did it go from there?
So while I was working offshore in Australia, earning fortunes, but I knew it was a bubble. I knew it wasn't going to last forever. So my friends in Perth were buying big houses and big boats. It's normal to have a boat in Perth because of the climate. So they're buying big houses, flash cars, flash boats, and I was literally sending every penny I had back to England and buying ex-council houses for cash.
Oh, you were doing that while you were over there?
While I was in Australia. Couldn't get mortgages because I was in Australia.
Yeah.
So I was just sending money back.
So I'm thinking you've just come home for good now? No.
No, so I went to Australia when I was 28 and stayed there for 7 years.
Well, right, but you earn it. But from that point, you're earning like $4,000 a week or whatever it was. Is that right?
Well, I was earning, I was doing three weeks offshore and 3 weeks onshore. And I was getting like £20,000 every time I went offshore.
So that's like 20 grand a month-ish, 6 weeks.
20 grand a month.
Yeah.
But then you'd miss a month, so it worked out 10 grand a month.
Right.
But I was living frugally. I was in a house share in Australia with two of my mates.
Yeah.
And as soon as I get to 100 grand in English cash, I just fire it back.
Nice.
And buy another house.
Yeah.
And I was coming back periodically for like weddings, christenings. And one time I flew home for my mate Chris's wedding, and I was only home 7 nights. I bought 2 houses for cash and then flew back to Australia.
Mate, you were the man, weren't you?
I know, mate, it was unreal.
Yeah.
My mates couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Because I was crap at school. All the jobs I'd had were pretty crap since I got out of school. I'd done loads of jobs. I've been painting fences. I'd been doing all sorts. And then all of a sudden I was coming home with 200 grand in my bank.
I'll have one of them.
Yeah, I'll have two houses cash.
Quality.
So I was buying ex-council houses in Billingham. So I stayed in Australia for 7 years.
It's a good place to invest, I think, Billingham.
It's a great place. Yeah, try and keep it a secret, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's expensive now, to be honest.
Yeah. Like everywhere now, though, isn't it?
It is,
like,
yeah. The houses I was buying for sort of 50, 60k are now 130, 140, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to market to get into. There's better places now, I think. But yeah, so I stayed in Australia, bought a house in Australia. It was the world's smallest HMO. I lived in it, and then when I left, I went to live in Bali for a period. And then me and my best friend Tom, we went backpacking for 2 years. I left Australia, the oil and gas market crashed. Me and Tom went backpacking for 2 years, didn't work a day in 2 years. But I had 6 lots of rent coming in from England and no mortgages.
Yeah.
So at the time, I had like 3 grand a month coming in.
Nice.
And so I just backpacked on that money. Rented my house out in Australia, as like I say, as the world's smallest HMO, 2-bed HMO next to the hospital in Fremantle. Backpacked for 2 years, went around Southeast Asia, Europe, South America, did a few months in South America on my own.
How was that on your own?
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's a different... I went with Tom and then he met a girl in Peru who he's now marrying. So I like backpacked the rest of it on my own. It was immense. It was scary at times, but travelling on your own, it gives you a completely different dimension because you're forced to talk to people and you attract people when you're on your own. People feel like...
Trust you a little bit, maybe.
But I think they think, oh, he's on his own, I'll go and talk to him, type of thing. Yeah. It's a lot less intimidating approaching a guy on his own than it is a group of six lads or whatever.
That's what I meant, yeah.
So, but I landed in one of the funniest things. I'd been on a bus to Colombia for 3 days, sleeping on this bus. Oh, it was horrendous. The toilet wouldn't work, so people were just peeing on the floor. Honestly, it was horrendous. I'd paid about 20 quid for this 3-day bus.
Get your money's worth.
Yeah, and I got to Medellin in Colombia, which obviously, one of the naughtiest cities in the world. And I got to this hostel. I was at a dormitory with 20 of us, and I'd been traveling for 3 days. I got in the shower. It was the best shower ever. And I came out just getting dressed, and all I heard was this voice going, "All right, mate." I turned around. I was like, "Hey, mate." He's like, "Yeah, are you from Teesside?" He'd heard me talking at reception. And he's from Middlesbrough. I was like, how the hell?
Yeah,
like, we just get everywhere, don't we? Anyway, I didn't like him, so I avoided him like the plague. But it was just funny at the time. Like, brilliant. Yeah. It's a small world.
Where was he from then? Like, how come you didn't click with him? Because usually if you meet someone from Borough or Teesside...
No, he was a Borough-wide boy. Right. He wasn't a nice lad.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, and he's probably dead by now, the way he was living. But anyway, so... Flew home from Colombia to Billingham, slept in my mum's spare room for a few months, started to educate myself, reading property books, listening to podcasts, the two Robs, is when...
So you were making around 3k a month off your rent at this point?
Exactly.
And then you went home, lived with your mum, and did you start sort of taking it serious at that point if you're starting to read books and whatnot then?
Yeah, I got home. Started working from home as a construction project manager for my mate's construction business. Just on the back of my refurb. Because even though I was living in Australia, I was refurbing, sort of project managing and refurbs in Billingham from Australia, which was really good, actually. I really enjoyed it.
It's interesting, that.
Yeah, and then my mate Kyle took me on as a project manager 3 days a week. I was living at my mum's. But yeah, during that time, I just educated myself, read every property book under the sun. Like, literally, must have read 50 books. Like,
what one stands out?
Everyone says this, don't they? But it's Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Ironic, innit? That was the one that I first started with, yeah.
I mean, there's some crackers. All Rob Moore's books are good. Or most of them, some of them are getting a bit fluffy and a bit repetitive. But Rob Dix, anything by Rob Dix. Beyond the Bricks, I think it's called, one of his books. That was one of the first ones I read. And it's just case studies of people that have gone from nothing to being property millionaires, I suppose. Which is our Poor Dad, though. It just drills home a very, very simple message, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it just depicts it in such a way. It's a story, isn't it? It's a story about a young guy who has a rich dad, which is his friend's dad, and then a poor dad, which is his own dad, and his own dad's a school teacher, pays into a pension, and just wants to live from the age of 65 till he's dead. Whereas his rich dad wants to live his life now, and he invests in assets and businesses and employs people. Yeah. And that just the message, it's such a simplistic message, and it's explained in such layman terms in the book. I think that's why it attracts so much attention and why people speak so highly, because anyone can understand it. Yeah. No matter what your background is, because it's in a story format. Yeah. It's easy to follow.
100%.
So the message is no different to what other people are saying, but it's just the way it's outlaid. And it's just, when you read Rich Dad Poor Dad for the first time, it's like a light bulb, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I've written I read it, and then I've written like a little sort of essay on it.
Have you?
Yeah.
Ah, right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I'd go through my pencil and just like highlight. But then I thought, it's a waste of time highlighting, because I'm just highlighting every sentence in the end. Just read it again. I mean, I must have read that 7 or 8 times now.
Yeah.
But I just thought, hang on, I've been sort of following his rules without even knowing what I'm doing. I'd been buying assets. What I hadn't been doing is using the bank's money. I'd been using my own cash. So you can imagine, I'm sat here reading these books and learning about leverage and why property is so good. You know, property is a great investment asset class, because you can use the bank's money to do it.
Yeah.
I think if you're using your own cash, there's better asset classes. But the attraction of property is you can use the bank. It's the only asset class where the bank will give you 75%. So you put in 25% of the money, and if the property goes up 10%, you get 100% of that growth. I mean, it's bananas, isn't it? When you think about it, like, it doesn't make any sense. It's a cheat code.
Yeah.
Whereas if you buy 100 grand's worth of shares, you have to put 100 grand in. So for me, I'm sat here with 6 unencumbered properties, thinking, shit, I'm rich.
What was the value of those properties at that point?
Oh, I was paying sort of 70 or 80 for them. Not buying them particularly well, to be honest. Getting bits of discount. But there was so much less competition at the time, investment-wise.
I can imagine.
So I was paying sort of 70, 80 grand. The first 2 I bought were 80 and 88. That sort of bracket. Not needing huge amounts of work, because I was conscious that I was living in Australia, so it was just like new kitchen, carpets and painting. And my mates were qualified. A lot of my mates were qualified tradesmen by then. It was different to the flips I was doing, because they were still in training. So a lot of them were doing the work for me for mates' rates, which was amazing while I was in Australia.
What was your purchasing criteria? Just anything you could afford, or were you looking for bits? Were you looking for a deal?
I was looking for 10% off. I just wanted solid 3-bedroom houses.
10% off of what? The asking price or the actual market value?
The asking price.
2 different
things,
I
didn't know how to look at comparables.
Yeah.
I was just looking at houses that I knew, because I knew building them like the back of my hand. I was just looking for properties in good streets that I knew small families would want, and that was my criteria. And just let the market do what the market does, which is long term. It's always going to go up. So yes, I got back, learned about leverage, and I was just like, shit, like the house, the value of the houses was probably, touching 600 grand. I thought, I can get 75% of this 600 grand here. So that's what I did. I just refinanced and started buying. I think I bought 2 that year, and then the next year I bought 7. The next bit.
What year was this, Dave?
So it'll have been, when did I get back from? 2016, 2017.
That was that nice time to do it.
It was, because, like I said before, it was just so much less competition. It felt like there was anyway. Maybe I just didn't know people. The circles that you and I spend our time in now, everyone's into property. That's natural.
Yeah.
So you sort of fall into the trap of thinking that everyone invests in property, but they don't. It's quite niche still, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it feels like you've said. It feels like everyone does it now. Yeah. Everyone wants to.
Yeah, because everything I watch on YouTube or Instagram, whatever, is property based. So I surround myself with property people. That's what I do. So it feels like everyone, but it's still a tiny percentage of people that invest professionally in property full time.
Yeah.
So the most I bought one year was 9 properties, 9 3-bedroom properties, and I was just
doing like BRR or just
doing BRR, because I was educating myself by then from podcasts and books. I've never done any property training ever, so I educated myself, and I was BRR and everything, and just using the same pot of cash over and over again. And I wasn't getting all my money out every deal. That's I've bought over 50 properties in my life, including the ones I've sold. And I think there's 3 or 4 where I've got every penny back out. So it just shows you. People go on Instagram and YouTube, whatever, and they talk about all these all money. They're absolute unicorns.
Yeah, 100%.
No, don't get me wrong. There was a lot of deals where I was only leaving sort of 5 or 6 grand in the deal. My criteria has always been I wouldn't leave more than 15 grand in a deal. That's never changed. So there's a lot of very good deals. It was a lot easier then. I think anyway. There was no stamp duty either, so that was another cost that wasn't. And I'd set up a limited company. I was buying a limited company by then.
So doing all the right things then, putting in a limited company.
I just read everything. But I've still got not all of them in limited. I've still got 8 properties in my own name, which yourself is not great.
No,
I'm going to start siphoning off some of them. I think.
Yeah.
Because I buy commercial property now, either to turn it into residential or to just keep as commercial. So I'm going to start selling some of those 8, probably just as the fixed rates come to an end. So because some of them are still on 5-year fixed rates. One of them, I've got a 1.9% 5-year fixed rate in my own name. I'd be stupid to sell it at the moment, because the mortgage is 190 quid and the rent's 800 quid a month. So I'm not going to sell that now.
No.
When I come to the end of that fixed rate, I just start. There's loads of equity in it. Because I also have another rule. I only refinance once, so I'll refurbish and refinance.
That's interesting. I've never heard anyone say that before.
Yeah. The other person I've heard say that is Danny Inman.
Right.
In one of his videos last year. So, yeah, I refurbish and refinance, but then I won't refinance again. I'm only sort of 58% loan to value in my portfolio, and I like that.
How much?
58%.
58%. Wow,
Yeah.
that's really good.
Yeah,
isn't it?
across the board. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm reticent to just keep refinancing. I like having equity, and it also makes your portfolio more flexible, because now if I sell, I can pull, when I sell, I can pull 60 or 70 grand out of each property before tax, obviously. Might be wise to do it before the Labour government get in. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
that's another
who
story.
knows?
So yeah, and that's where I am, and I own over 30. I return over 30 properties now, and I've sold. Don't get me wrong, I've sold a lot of flips. I've done quite a few live-in flips, because it's the only tax break we get these days, is your principal place of residence.
How long do you have to live in there before you get that tax break?
I've always lived. It's officially 6 months, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I actually thought it was 2 years.
To be honest, Matty, I don't know. Officially, don't quote me on the 6 months, because I've always lived in them longer, a lot longer than that. Like, the last one I lived in for 2 years.
I thought it was 2 years, just from what.
Yeah, it might have changed.
Yeah.
I've always lived in them long term anyway. It's always been, while you're living there, doing it bit by bit. So when I say flip, I mean live in it and just do it bit by bit. Because when you're living there, you can't rip every room a bit, because you're just living in dust. So yeah, and that's where I am today.
Do you class yourself as a millionaire?
Yeah, I do. Sounds silly to say it out loud, actually. I've been a millionaire since the age of 38. I'm 42 now, so I've been a millionaire for 4 years.
What do you class as a millionaire?
Net assets.
Net equity or net
equity, yeah. So...
Do you tell yourself you're a millionaire?
I have, actually. No, I don't tell myself I'm a millionaire, but it's something I've started to think about quite lately, actually. I think it's the amount of podcasts I'm listening to.
What do you mean?
One question they always ask is, when did you turn a millionaire? And that's,
really?
I don't know, yeah, that's just got me thinking, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am a millionaire. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, really.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Gets me excited.
Yeah. But, we all suffer from it. We were just talking off camera, weren't we, about imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
And you asked me, I think you said something like, after what happened when you were a youngster, it's amazing you've been so successful. And to hear somebody say that I'm successful, that doesn't really seem right, to be honest. I still class myself as trying to be successful.
So what is that? What is successful?
Success for me is, the ultimate success for me is having enough money to never work again, to never have to work again. Now, you may choose to work again, and I'm not there yet. I suppose I could be if I scale back my lifestyle and maybe lived somewhere else. But I'm talking about the ultimate success for me is to have 2 houses paid off, one in England, one in Spain, and just spend my time drifting between the 2 properties.
Yeah. Picking
and choosing which property developments to do. That type of thing. That's success.
Yeah. So where does your business fit into all that? We haven't even got into that yet.
No. So, yeah, I guess because I'm used to being on property podcasts, I've just sort of focused my thoughts and conversations on the property. But, yeah, the business, that's totally separate. I mean, they go hand in hand, obviously, but that's a totally separate entity. So I started Orange Lettings, as it was when I started it. So when I got back from Australia, I bought a couple more properties and had enough. I was buying property aggressively, and I had enough rent that I didn't need to work anymore. So I quit work. As a project manager. And
so if you're at that point there, you don't ever need to work again. You just say you don't feel successful, but you've got to that point.
Yeah,
already.
But when I said I didn't need to work again, I had a cheap little car. I was renting a house in Newcastle with my missus, who she worked full time as a school teacher at the time. So I didn't need to work again, but the standard of living that I had wasn't where I wanted to be. So no, you're right. I could have not worked.
Yeah, it's interesting that. So it's a bit more than just having enough money, isn't it? 'Cause
I don't
obviously
want to. I don't want to survive. I don't want to survive. I want to prove to myself and prove to other people.
That chip on the shoulder again.
That chip on the shoulder. It'll always be there till the day I die.
Yeah.
I want to prove to myself and other people that I can become uber successful.
Yeah.
But also, it's not all about that. I also want to enjoy the fruits of that as well. You know, I go on nice holidays now, and I drive nice cars, and I've got a lovely house. But that's just a taste of it. That's just the beginning. I want multiple properties, and I want complete freedom. For me, I've never been massively into sort of superficial assets, superficial toys. You know, I've never no supercars or nothing like that. No boats, that type of thing, like real flashy stuff.
Have you ever done one for the day, rented one, or?
No, I haven't.
Would you like to do one?
I'd like to own one. Yeah, I'd like to own one. I'd like to own a supercar.
Well, just getting a feel of I think what the next thing I do, what's on my list, is just to get a feel of a Rolls Royce. Just go in there and just see how that feels. Yeah. And
make sure you make a video and tell everyone it's yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For your TikTok. So, but just my highest value is freedom. Like, being rich or having money gives you freedom. It gives you options. I want more fuck you money. Like, to be able to say, wake up in the morning and just not have to do anything. At the moment, you know, I'm in a great position, but I've got a business to run. I'm hands-on day to day, as you know, in the business, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But there will come a time when I want to step away, and you have to put yourself in a financial position to be able to employ the right people, because people are expensive.
Good people are.
Good people are very expensive, and I've got very, very good people. Yeah. And I pay over industry standard for wages. I know I do.
You probably make that back though, don't you?
You do? Oh yeah, you do.
100%,
I mean, I know multiple estate agency owners that pay less than me, and they all think I'm crazy for. Don't get me wrong, I'm not paying them stupid money, but I'm paying above industry standard, and but for that you get good people. You know, it's worth it. Like you said, good people make you money.
100%, yeah. And
you find them more reliable, they're more trustworthy. So it's a no-brainer for me. So yeah, Orange. Back to that. So Orange lettings. So I'd had enough rent coming in that didn't need to work. But then within 6 months, I was bored. I was living in Gosforth in Newcastle, which is a lovely area. My missus was earning a fortune. She was a head teacher by then. When I say missus, it's just my girlfriend. I was just sat at home every day on my own for 6 months. And then I thought, do you know what? I need a business. Property, for me, is not a business. It's not. If you own buy-to-lets and HMOs, you're not an entrepreneur. You're not a business person. Like, I've owned property for more than 20 years now, and nothing in that 20 years has taught me anything about running a business.
It's slow pound, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. So your business is your fast pound, your property is your slow pound. And that's why I love that name, because you need both. You really do need both. You do need
both. And I think one of the sort of challenge, I don't know what to call it, maybe challenge or misconceptions with new people, they think property's fast pound, don't they?
Yeah.
Because I think that's what mentors or educators or whatnot sell it as, financially free and whatnot.
It does, yeah. And obviously, with Orange, you know, we manage a lot of property now, or relatively a lot of property. The company's 5 years old this year, and the amount of investors that I see that have bought properties through us or through other people and that we've managed, and they bought them 2 years ago, and they're selling up because interest rates have gone up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, what are you getting into it for?
Yeah. Like, you don't buy a property, pay stamp duty, your legal fees, all the other fees and costs, refurb costs, and then sell it 2 years later. For me, if you're doing a short-term flip, and the numbers work, then that's different. But to buy a buy-to-let for 2 years, what is the point?
There's no point.
Like, some of mine I've owned sort of 15 years plus. I'm only starting to see the real fruits of my labour with them now.
Yeah.
But I knew that.
Yeah.
I'd factored that in because I'd educated myself. And I knew property was a slow game, but I knew it was a surefire way of getting wealthy.
Yeah.
But I knew it wasn't going to happen overnight. Delayed gratification is everything. Delayed gratification is the number one skill you need no matter what you're investing in. delayed gratification is literally everything.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If you can take a short-term pain for long-term gain, then you've cracked it. If you've got the ability to do that, you've cracked it. And the amount of investors that are selling up now, I just think, what were you thinking? Like, if you wanted to make quick cash, property is not the way to do it.
I mean, to be fair, the only reason you would probably sell is if it's not cash flowing.
But
especially if you're on an interest-only mortgage and it's not cash flowing, fair enough, isn't it? But
I don't know, because for me, I'd still just keep hold of it. As long as I wasn't losing money, or if I was leaving, don't get me wrong, some of my properties haven't always cash flowed. You know, when I started buying property, interest rates weren't as low as they were in the COVID times, obviously. And I've always seen it as long term. They always creep up we don't get a lot of capital growth in the North East, but they always creep up. And, you know, rents are always going up. So even if you're not cash flowing for the short term, like if you're breaking even, if your rent's 600 quid on a house now, but your interest only mortgage is 600 quid, I think you've bought the wrong property. The deal didn't work because even the properties where I've come off of fixed rates now, I'm still making good money on them because the rents have gone up. Yeah. Because I've bought in quality areas and done proper refurbs so that the maintenance costs are low. Touch wood. You never know, but you know, my portfolio doesn't demand a lot of maintenance money because I've done proper refurbs.
That's what was obviously we were managing like around 200, and that's what was killing all the margin on the buy. Like was the maintenance costs.
Yeah. But people were buying 2 up, 2 down houses with slate roofs, which looked like they experienced a week in Chernobyl, and you could just look at the properties and think it's absolutely rotten. And then they whinge because there's £100 maintenance come out, or there's £2,000 worth of damp proofing to be done when the house is riddled with damp. You know, if you don't do your refurb properly at the start, you're setting yourself up to fail, aren't you?
100%.
That refurb is critical. Spend the extra 5 or 10 grand on your refurb because it'll save you 5 times that in the long run.
Do you think you'll get better tenants as well?
Of course you do. Of course you do. Yeah, there's no doubt about that, is there? Better tenants, they'll stay longer. It's a no-brainer. So Orange. So I started Orange. Basically, I was managing my own portfolio, and I'd started to invest in little bits of software to manage my own portfolio to make it more official. My girlfriend was helping me out as a part-time employee. I had a VA working for me doing bookkeeping.
How many properties have you got at that point when you set Orange up?
When I set Orange up, I think 20 of my own.
All single lets?
Yeah, all single lets. And I was like I say, I was buying software. I was paying people.
Did you set it up because you couldn't find a good agent?
Part of that, partly because of that, I was spending money on my own portfolio and the management of it. And I thought to myself, I remember sitting there watching TV one night and thinking, this is slowly becoming a business, this. I've got a reliable VA. I've got software now, management software, CRM. I'm managing my own properties. I'm doing inspections. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm managing the maintenance. This is going to become a business. And I had a business itch. That's what I was trying to get to earlier. So for me, property isn't a business. I had an itch. I wanted my own business. I wanted to build a brand. I wanted to grow something from the ground up and say I was proud of that. And a property portfolio, there's no visibility with a property portfolio. I wanted a well-known brand. But yes, to answer your question, I was partly driven by the fact the letting agents I'd used, some of them, not all of them, in the past, that lack of service was incredible. They just didn't want to know. And with all due respect, they were snotty-nosed 18, 19-year-old kids in the office. They didn't know what the pains that landlords went through. You
have to be hard-nosed. You have to be, don't you? And
I was finding even the owners of the agencies didn't have any property themselves. And I remember saying to my ex-girlfriend at the time, how are these people directing my portfolio? How are they maintaining and increasing the value of my portfolio? Because they don't have their own portfolio. It's, you know, if you want your car fixed, you don't take it to Tesco, do you?
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, I'm an experienced landlord and I can do better than this. and it's slowly, organically becoming a business anyway. Let's do this. So set up Orange Lettings, got a few, went network and property network events and got a few clients, just doing it all myself at the time. And then it's just sort of grown over the years. So we're 5 years in now. We manage between 400 and 450 properties. We do a lot of refurbs. We do sales now. We do sourcing now. So yeah, it's just growing. You know, there's 5 of us now. So we've got a great team, very experienced team. And it's just going great guns, to be honest. So my main focus, to be honest, is not on property at the moment. It's on Orange. It's on growing the brand and growing the business.
Where do you want to take it?
I want to be. You know, you need a big hairy goal, don't you? That's a big hairy, scary goal. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
So mine is to be the go-to. It needs to be measurable, so you got to be careful how you say this. But I want to be the go-to independent agent in the Northeast. And I put the word independent in there because you're always going to have your corporates, your big corporates, and they're running a different way to what Orange is. I don't think they ran as well, but I would say that.
Yeah.
I think you get a more personal touch with an independent agency. I think
yeah.
independent agencies care more, just naturally. In corporates, you get lost, especially with lettings. You find a lot of the corporates are sales agents, and they do a bit of lettings on the side.
Yeah.
Not all of them. And they're not landlords. Lettings agents in corporates, most of them, 99% of them, are not landlords. They don't understand the day-to-day pain that we go through. Yeah. They don't understand that an extra 30 quid on a maintenance bill could be all your profit for a two down buy-to-let. Yeah. They don't understand the refinance process. They don't understand how important it is that the valuer gets access via the tenant so you can get your refinance done. Yeah. And we do. We understand all of that. And that's, I think, the reason we're growing so quickly is because people realise that and they really appreciate that.
Or the fact that, like, if you don't chase that tenant's rent, you know, we've still got a mortgage to pay.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
It's amazing the amount of tenants that you speak to and you're like, oh yeah, I'm late my rent this, especially around Christmas. I'm late my rent this month because I had to buy Christmas presents. And you say, but the landlord's mortgages still come out. And the amount of them, they go, has he got money going out? Yeah, it's like, what planet do you live on? Yeah. There's just this, they think landlords are all millionaires, don't they?
How did you get your first customer for Orange?
So it was my friend Adam, network event. We'd just been chatting, met at a network event in Teesside, and he said to me, I wish you had your own letting agency. And I said, well, actually, Adam, I'm thinking about setting up one. And that was the sort of springboard. Yeah. He said, oh, well, you can have all my properties. And he had about 8 properties, I think. Oh, yeah, nice. So he, one by one, sent them over. Yeah. And that was just giving me the confidence. It was a great position to be in. And luckily, I'm still in the same position now where Orange is the cream. Like, my property portfolio pays for my life. And that's what I've always wanted. If you've got a good, well-maintained property portfolio, it gives you the foundation to then take a few risks, doesn't it?
It's interesting you've said that, because I think that's why you can be so patient with Orange.
Probably.
And be so hands-on. Yeah. I don't think you would be that hands-on. You'd be like, fuck this.
I know.
Because you've, But that's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
It's a big advantage compared to what else is, like, other competitors and stuff in the market.
Yeah, it is. And our processes and our systems are improving daily. Well, maybe not daily, but regularly. That they're improving on a month-to-month basis, because all the profit that Orange makes goes back into business, because I don't take that money out because I don't need it.
Which obviously, if you didn't have the portfolio, you wouldn't be able to be in that position.
No, I'd be living off it. No.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd have a totally different mindset.
Exactly. I'm investing.
That's an advantage, though, isn't it?
That's
a big investment, like, that you're putting into Orange,
huge.
There, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely huge. There's a lot of money going into Orange. Yeah, and that's why we've got the best software. We've got the best systems. There's money going into marketing now, and it's. You're right. I wouldn't be able to do that without my property portfolio.
I think that's really interesting, to be fair. So you think, one of the questions I had down here was your big vision. Is that what gets you up every day in terms of you want Orange to be the best?
It does, yeah. That's what gets me out of bed every morning. I bounce out of bed 4 a.m. every morning, as you know. And, part of that is my bladder. My old man bladder.
You're getting on now.
I am, mate, yeah. Part of that's going to the gym, but, I love... People dread Mondays. I love Mondays. Yeah. I'm excited for Mondays. And I love it. I love my life. Monday to Sunday is amazing. I'm very, very fortunate. But I've made a lot of sacrifices over the last 30 years to get me to where I am. But my big hairy goal is to be the go-to independent agent in the North East. I want people to, when they talk about property from a management point of view or a sales point of view, I want Orange to be the first name on the lips. You know, that's some people might say that's unreasonable, but you need that big scary goal, don't you?
What does that look like in terms of like a tangible, like I want to be X revenue, X profit, X members of staff? What does that can you put?
Yeah, so I try to break it up. I try not to get too specific with the big goal, because I find, this is just me personally, I'm big on goals and I write them down. I say it daily, but some days I miss. I'm not as good as I should be with it sometimes. But with the big hairy goal, I think it's important from my point of view not to get too specific with the numbers, because I think you get lost in that. If I know I need 60 staff, I mean, that's stressful.
Quite overwhelming.
That makes me anxious.
Yeah.
So even though I want that big hairy goal of being the number one independent agent, I want to break that down into bite-sized chunks. So for me, the next step is to get to 1,000 properties. That's the next step from a management point of view.
And that's like, it's a nice, like, you know, jump from where you are now, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like you can probably half see that, can't you?
Yeah, it's becoming a realistic goal for the next 2 years. In 2 years' time, I want to be at 1,000 properties. But I also want 10 sales a month going through. You know, we're nowhere near that at the moment.
How do you get there?
So we get there by doing exactly what we're doing now on a day-to-day basis. We've got touching 450 properties now. 18 months ago, we had 200. So, you know, if we keep going the way we are, I want to grow within a structure, and that structure is already in place. So to get to 1,000, we don't need to do anything different. We just need to do.
It's important to have that foundation in place.
Of course it is. I'm a big believer in you can't say, all right, I'll put this in place when I get to that many properties, or I'll have that many staff when I get to that many properties. You need that structure in place to grow within that structure. It's no good getting to 1,000 properties and saying, shit, I need 3 more staff, or shit, I need this software now, or shit, I need this system. You need to have that in place and then grow. I overspend on software, I know I do.
How much do you spend on software?
Well, it's growing massively at the moment because I'm investing.
It does add up, doesn't it?
In other bits, yeah. So sort of $5-6 grand a month.
What do you use? PayProp,
Sprift,
I've never heard that one.
1090.
Yeah. 1090.
When I say software, I include online marketing in that as well.
Yeah.
So
are you on Rightmove?
Yeah, Rightmove's.
That'd be expensive, wouldn't it?
Rightmove's very expensive, mate. Yeah. On the market.
Would you open up another branch?
I don't feel we need to at the moment. I'm keen to keep our overheads as low as I can, because our rates to landlords, we discussed this the other day, didn't we? My rates to landlords are very, very competitive, probably too cheap in certain areas. I know we had this conversation the other day and you were amazed how little I was charging it for some things. But I want to stay competitive. That's our business model. And by having multiple branches around the North East, rather than one big hub as we've got now, you know, it's bloody expensive.
Yeah.
So my fees would have to go up to cover that.
Would you like I've been to your office. Would you like a high street office?
I don't think it's needed now. I don't think it's needed. So
for an ego thing, just to see.
For an ego point of view, I would. Yeah, I'd like.
But
you
could own it, couldn't you?
There's irons in the fire on potentially on that.
That'd be good.
I am buying commercial buildings, as you know, at the moment. I'm buying shops with uppers. It may be that happens. But yeah, I'm very careful. Whatever decision I make within property or within business, I'm very careful to ask myself, am I doing this for the good of the company, or am I doing this for David's ego?
Yeah.
And if you need to be very honest with yourself. And if you are doing it from an ego perspective, 99% of the time, it's the wrong decision, I think.
Yeah, probably.
You have to sit down and say, is this for the good of Orange? Because Orange is a separate, and I'm 100% owner of Orange, so it's easy to feel that it's you, it's part of you, and it is. It's my baby. You know, I grew it from 0 properties to where it is now. But you have to see it as a separate entity, and the bigger you get, the easier it is to see it as a separate entity. But I need to look after Orange, and I need to say to myself, is this for the benefit of Orange?
As landlords, are you still at the point where landlords have got your like WhatsApp like directly
less
to you?
and less.
Less and less.
Yeah. The first sort of 100 landlords, 50 to 100 landlords have got it.
Are you constantly like directing them, like speak to the office, speak to?
Well, I've changed my phone number, so I've got I added a personal phone to my arsenal, I suppose. So that my old phone is now my work phone, which my staff monitor. So they answer a lot of my WhatsApps to my work phone.
Brilliant, yeah.
And communication's huge. So communication is
within lettings, especially.
Communication
probably the top thing, isn't
has
it?
to be sharp.
Yeah.
You can't miss communication. WhatsApp is brilliant for that. A lot of my landlords do like to communicate on WhatsApp. But Matthew and my other staff, they monitor that WhatsApp now. So my landlords are getting constant communication. A lot of them think it's me, but it's not. Sorry, guys, but then I've got my personal phone as well. So it does give you some separation.
Yeah. And are you actually like quite disciplined with like, I'll just, from like say 6 o'clock, I'll just be on my personal phone?
I find that very difficult, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
My girlfriend is one to keep me in line with that, as you know, as I'm sure you experience the same things.
Yeah.
It's she sets not strict. I was going to say she sets rules, but it's not fair to say that. But she doesn't get very happy if I'm answering work calls after 6. But it does happen. It does happen, especially if it's an important client.
What are your biggest challenges?
People. I think as you grow, you need more people. I used to think when I first started the business that the more people I had, the easier my life would be. You soon realise that those people need managing.
Yeah.
And if you employ the wrong type of person, which I have, I'll hold my hands up, in the past, they're not with us anymore. I've had a couple of staff that weren't right for the business. Yeah. Lovely people. Yeah. Just weren't right for the business, and they required more management than the properties did, for one reason or another. And they could be very good property managers, but they don't work within your morals and your sort of ways of working, I guess. It's just not a good fit. And it's very difficult to get rid of people these days. So you got to be very careful. So I think people is the biggest challenge for any business, I think. Yeah. Employing the right people. I'm very, very careful with who I employ now. And there's many difficulties, but I think that's the number one difficulty for any business is people, because your people are your business. Your people can make or break your business. 100%. You can have a 10-year relationship with a client, and you've done amazing refurbs, you've done amazing management, you've sold a few of his properties. He's over the moon. He's a super fan. He wears orange sales and lettings pajamas.
Boxy shorts.
Yeah, and then he gets really, really upset by the way he's being treated by one of your staff, and that relationship's gone. So you've got to be very, very careful.
I've got some more questions. So what would you do differently from the beginning of sort of your property journey?
Educate myself earlier, and I don't think you need to spend 25 grand on a course to do that. I sort of didn't start educating myself properly until I had a decent portfolio. So I would have read the books and listened to the podcasts. But that's not how I work. I'll say that I should have done that, but that was never going to happen. Everything in my life, I give it a go, and then I learn.
It's definitely not the wrong way to do it, is it? I mean, look what
everything I've sort of used that attitude with has worked out for me.
Yeah,
which would. So but going offshore, I had no right to be offshore. I had no knowledge or experience, but I gave it a go, and it was the best thing I ever did. Moving to Australia, I just went there on a wing and a prayer. I had no job waiting for me, no security waiting for me, and I just gave it a go. And I always find in life, if I give something a go, once I'm invested in that, I'll learn very quickly. I'm a quick learner. Even though it's crap at school, if it's something I'm generally interested in, like property or business, I'll just immerse myself. I'm obsessed. I've got an obsessive mind, and I drive people crazy because I'm a control freak and my standards are super high. And I fall out with people because of my standards, but I'm never going to change. What I would do different is, in an ideal world, educate myself before I do it, even though that's more advice to other people. That would never happen. I would never do that.
Would you not?
No, because I had 5 or 6 properties, I had to educate myself.
Yeah. It's a different type of education, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I was already invested, so I had such drive to get there. It's like my business now with Orange. I'm a nightmare. My staff must think I'm a nightmare. Well, they do think I'm a nightmare because I'm obsessed. On a night, I'm sat 8, 9 o'clock, update my business plans and changing my training packages for my staff and sending them WhatsApps. What's happening with this?
So, but your training packages and everything like that. Like, how have you learned that needs to be done? Because
books on business, and my friend Neil Gibb, who's been on my property podcast, he's got a really big management agency in Australia, and he's been drilling this home to me. So we have monthly Zoom calls, and we go through our structures and our systems for our staff training and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is powerful, isn't it? Because
it's
you
amazing.
mentioned there you wouldn't spend like 25 grand on a course. I would argue you probably don't need to spend anything on a course, but spending it on the right network or mentorship.
I'm a big fan of mentorship.
I think it's different.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of mentorship. And I've got mentors now, and I'll always have mentors till the day I die now, because mentorship is completely different. Sitting on a course for 25 grand and getting lumps of material in paper or email, for me, there's no value in that. But having someone sit with you and answer your calls or WhatsApps not 24/7, within reason, and give you guidance and say, well, David, I did this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Make sure your mentor's done exactly
what
you're hoping to achieve, and my mentors have.
Yeah.
So having them at the end of the phone, just to do a sanity check on you. Hiya, I'm going to make this decision. Is it the right way to go? Well, 5 years ago I did this and it didn't work for this, and this. Right, okay, I won't do that then. I mean, how much is that worth?
Mate,
Hundreds of thousands of pounds.
No, you can't
probably
put a price
millions
on
of pounds.
Yeah.
So mentorship, I mentor myself now, as you know. I've got a couple of mentees. That may be something that I go into more in the future. But for now, I'm focused on Orange and the business. I think I'm a massive fan of mentorship.
I mean, I do a little bit myself, and I think what I've found really good with the mentorship is like it's also you're training them up to they could potentially work in Orange. So it'd be like it's like a recruitment thing, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, it's always in the back of my mind. One of my mentees in particular is doing very, very well. And he's a young guy, and I think he's going to go on to bigger and better things, but I'd love him to work for me.
Yeah.
But just seeing people grow, just passing on your knowledge, because imposter syndrome, it does attack us, and to sit and partake in a session with your mentee and give him your knowledge, and then to see him use that knowledge and then have great results, it sort of kills a bit of that imposter syndrome for me as well.
Yeah, I do know what I'm on about.
Yeah, exactly. It's like...
Well, they say, don't they? It's just a saying, like, you don't... Or you learn more when you teach, or there's something along those lines, like...
They say that until you know enough to teach someone else, you don't know.
Something like that,
yeah. And I totally believe in that, yeah.
So the mentors that you've got now, how did you get them, and do you pay for them?
Instagram.
Wow.
I got them off. Do you mean the people that mentor me?
Yeah.
I pay them, yeah. And
how did you get them?
Just through industry, just knowing people. They're quite well. I won't name names, but they're well-known people within the industry.
And did they offer that, or is it something that you wanted? Did you?
I seeked it. I contacted them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So
why didn't you go to people who actually are offering it as like their business?
Because I'm quite specific in who I want to work with, and
I presume these are business mentors, right? They're not property related.
One's property, one's business. So I've got one for each.
It's very smart.
Yeah, and it's not cheap, but it is.
Yeah.
It's if I tell people what I'm paying them, and they're like, oh bloody hell, and I'm like, that's pennies compared to what they're making. What they helped me to make, I should say. So. Yeah, I've only just started using them this year, but already seeing I've already made more than I've paid them.
Would you have done that earlier, mentorship?
Yes, without a doubt, definitely would have done mentorship earlier. But I didn't, my business mentor, my business is now making enough money to pay for that mentor, whereas it wasn't before. So it was a difficult decision to make back then, and everything happens at the right time, doesn't it? I feel like my business is at a crossroads now. Orange has gone from being a small agency with me and a couple of staff. We're at a real crossroads now, and we're just about to make that next step up. We're going to be a serious agency. That's how it feels. Like on a day-to-day in the office, I'm like, shit, this is a proper outfit now.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is its own little entity. It's ticking away. I'm still involved.
Do you get that feeling when something happens and you don't have any idea about it?
Yeah, I went on holiday to Italy a couple of weeks ago for my friend's wedding, and I said to Michelle, who runs the office, I said, rather than ringing me all the time or WhatsApp me, just do me a list of questions that you need answering. Because there's always going to be things that are inside my brain that my staff don't know, regardless of how good your software is. That's just conversations happen, don't they? So, and I said at the end of each night, just write me a list of questions, and I'll answer them at 5 p.m. that day or the next morning, ready for you to come in the office. You'll have the answers. I didn't get an email, not a single email. I said to my girlfriend Jade, I said, they haven't emailed me. Hope everything's okay. And I got home and I got in the office and I was just like, I said, I've had no emails. They're like, oh, we didn't need anything. And I look on the whiteboard of, new lets. There's always sort of 20 or 30 new lets on the board. They'd all let. And the maintenance was done.
Yeah.
And
was that quite surreal?
Amazing. Yeah,
that's why I started the business, for something to happen without me, I guess.
Yeah, it has to be.
That makes sense.
You haven't got a business, have you?
Yeah.
You haven't got a business that operates without you. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, 365 days a year, it's not going to operate without me. But for that was the first time I'd been away and I didn't get a single question. And not only had we dealt with everything I wanted to deal with, the business had grown. We took on new properties as well.
Wow.
And I thought, this is serious now. This is getting, and Orange now deserves my focus and it deserves my time, which is why I'm stepping away from other things. So yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
100%. That's a really good sign of.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We've got a long way to go,
yeah.
Matty. We've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I'm looking to improve on a daily basis. In 5 years' time, I'll still be looking to improve. I know I will. So there's a long way to go. I'm very realistic, but yeah, it's getting there.
That's like unreal, though, isn't it? For it to be growing without you there, even though if it was only for a week or two.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key. Your business doesn't have to just survive when you're not there. It has to grow. It has to keep growing.
Yeah, that is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, one of our key values is growth. And if you're not growing, you're dying. I think no matter what you're doing in life, if you're not growing, you're dying. That's my attitude towards it anyway.
What are your next couple of hires for Orange? Are they going to be like front-end sales and marketing, or are you going to be looking just to constantly improve the back end?
Yeah, so we've got a sales girl who runs the sales side of the business at the moment. We will then need someone else to fully focus, because Julie, who runs the sales department, she does sales progression, she does the marketing, she does the negotiation, everything. I get involved in it as well. So we're going to need someone else as well to do purely marketing, sales. So yeah, that'll be next hire. The next hire, big hire, which will hopefully come in the next year or two, will be a managing director, an MD.
Wow, yeah, that's big stuff.
That's got to be the aim, hasn't it?
Do you have a
PA? I've got a VA, and my staff in the office. They would all probably class themselves as my PAs. I'm a nightmare for it, to be honest.
Are you not good at admin then? Because I feel like you would be pretty organised.
I'm good at it. Really... I'm very organised. I'm good at admin, but I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate admin. So even though I'm good at it, I don't want to be doing it. So I'll constantly ring up. I buy property myself. They assist me with bits of admin with that, and obviously Orange manage my portfolio, so that's great. But yeah, they do act as my PA. I pay them a wage, so they help me. They're very helpful.
Yeah, fair enough. What does your VA do for you?
She does bits of bookkeeping. It's limited, to be honest, mate. It's limited. Bit of social media, bits of whatever I ask you to, basically. It's on a pro rata business, so if she does 8 hours one day, she might not work the next 3 days, and then she'll do another 8 hours.
Is she like UK based or is she overseas?
She's overseas, yeah.
Yeah, I had a really, really good one from the Philippines.
Right, yeah, that's where she's from, yeah.
Yeah, like when you tell people that, like, well, how does that work? But no, she was seriously good, yeah.
Yeah, they're brilliant. And South African. There's a lot of South African VAs now are amazing. South African ones probably better because they're only an hour time difference away from us, and the culture and the language. Obviously, English is spoken a lot more in South Africa than it is in the Philippines. But yeah, very good. VAs. I'm a big advocate of VAs.
So the MD that you're thinking of hiring or want to hire, are they going to be industry experienced? Do you want them to be like? Oh yes,
definitely. Yeah. I'm probably 18 months to 2 years away from having an MD. That's the dream. It may not happen. Nothing's for certain, is it? The growth might stunt. You just don't know. You don't know which way the industry's going to go. If Labour come in and start making it even more difficult for landlords, you may get even more selling off, which obviously help us with the sales side of the business. But the management side of the business, I don't know. So, but in my mind, I'd like an MD.
Yeah, to tell you what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just want to be the vision, be the dreamer. Which I'm a dreamer. You're a dreamer. If you weren't, you wouldn't be sat here today.
Yeah,
And I want to be the dreamer, and I want someone else to put my dreams into action, and manage my team. That's the ultimate. You know, like I said before, ultimately freedom is my biggest value, and to have an MD running the show, making financial decisions, that'll be the dream.
would you consider it like an FD?
Yeah, I think.
Because you told me, where I asked, I can't believe you told me you were doing like bookkeeping, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
No, I was like,
but it's more because I enjoy it. I love numbers.
You've got a good hold on what's going on when you see the finances.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you?
Nobody cares about your money as much as you do.
Yeah, that's
cares
when it comes down to like that service level, which I don't think from what I've heard, you know, and what I've seen with other people, no one's given that type of service level from an owner.
Yeah, but that's because I care. It's because I'm a paranoid landlord myself, and that's why the business is doing so well. My people are brilliant, don't get me wrong, but the business is growing so much because I'm a paranoid landlord myself, and I care, and I'm into details. I look after people's portfolios. The references we get are incredible. It's like, are they really talking about my company? Honestly, brings a tear to your eye. But the financials, I like it because I can see the money in, money out. I'm a numbers person.
Are you processing stuff though? You're just overlooking it, like
I oversee things.
Yeah,
I oversee everything. And even when I have an MD, I'll still be looking at the money every day. I won't take my eye off the ball when I've got a managing director, but I won't need to be present physically in the office all the time.
Are you big on like KPIs and targets and stuff
I am,
that?
yeah, a lot. I always have been. You need them. You need what I call a dashboard. So my dashboard.
There's so many moving parts to a letting agency's dashboard, isn't there? I don't think people understand.
It's getting worse and worse. So, you know, new lets each month. Luckily, the software I've got presents a lot of this. So new lets each month, you know, turnover each month, maintenance cost, etc., etc., etc. So your KPIs. The mentor I'm working with now is even bigger on KPIs. So the KPIs are getting more and more. Some of the KPIs that he's already spoken about, I'm like, bloody hell, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But it's key.
Yeah.
Like, bloody hell, that'll be mega helpful. I never thought of it. So yeah, huge on that type of thing. Yeah.
And then interesting, mate. Really interesting. Yeah. Let's finish it off with sort of any advice you'd give to someone who was just starting their journey.
In property, if I was starting today, and I can say this with confidence because my nephew Matthew, he's 19. He's just bought his first buy-to-let, so obviously I'm advising him on a day-to-day basis. And I bought him all the books, all the Rich Dad Poor Dads, the full series. I bought him them for Christmas.
He probably learnt more than he has in his full 19 years.
He has,
education,
yeah. He's got a bit lazy with it lately, but he's read the first one, which is the best one. But he's fully on board with it anyway because we speak on a daily basis, and I'm drumming stuff into him, and he's like a sponge. You are when you're that age, aren't you?
Yeah.
And he actually said to me the other day, actually, ironically, he said, I don't just want slow money though, Uncle David, I want fast money as well. I want cars, I want this. I was like, yeah, as you get older, you'll learn. But advice to a new beginner today, I would say, educate yourself. Get a mentor as soon as you can afford one. Getting a mentor from day one, probably not possible for a lot of people, depending on how young they are. If they're earning good money, if they're in the early 20s and they've got a good wage coming in, then you can afford a mentor.
But you can still do that through books, YouTube,
exactly. Podcasts.
There's loads of stuff out there.
Back to Brick Property podcast.
Yeah, I've heard that's good. Not as good as Fast Pound Slow.
Yeah, it's up there, yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of free education out there.
Yeah.
Podcasts, YouTube's amazing for education. You want to know anything? I mean, YouTube is my search engine now.
Search engine, yeah.
Yeah, Google I barely use now. It's YouTube because I'm very visual. So not only do you get the description, someone's showing you how to do it, no matter what it is. So I'd say educate yourself, but don't get obsessed with education because action is the most important thing. You can have all the education in the world. I see people and I speak to people on a daily basis. There's one lady, I won't mention her name, she's spoken to me about property for the last 4 years. Wow. She's a highly intelligent person. She's an investment banker. She's got money coming out of her ears and she still hasn't bought her first property. And she analyses deals and deals and deals and asks me the most silly questions. And I'm just like, I've stopped answering her now. I'm just like, just do it. because she bought the properties 4 years ago when I was giving her advice. She'd have made a lot more money. So educate yourself, get a mentor, read books, podcasts, etc. But just bloody buy your first property. My first couple of properties that I bought were crap deals, but today they're unbelievable deals. Like one property I paid 88 grand for, it was up for 90. It was probably worth 85 at the time, but I overpaid for it. But it's worth 140, 150 grand today, and it's cash flowed 400 quid for the last however many years.
Yeah.
So they say a bad property is like a bad haircut. It just grows out with time.
Would you say, if someone was just leaving school or leaving uni or college or whatnot, would you say to them, learn property investing or learn a skill such as marketing or sales?
I would personally, now, if I had my time again, get a trade, become an electrician, because my electrician is filthy rich. And I think we're going to have a huge issue in this country with lacks of trades in the next 10 years, because everyone now wants to be an online marketer or wants to be have their own agency or live the laptop lifestyle, living in Spain or living in Bali. People are obsessed with that now. Online money, which is great. If you can make it work, then amazing. But the real wealth is going to come from plumbers, sparkies, bricklayers. We're already seeing with bricklayers, they're getting paid more than footballers at the moment, because there's going to be a huge skill gap, especially since Brexit and the Polish not coming over as much, etc. So I would say learn a skill. If you can become an electrician, an 18 or 19-year-old electrician, do your trade now, 3 years, you're 21, you'll be earning fortunes, whether you're working for yourself or working for somebody else, and then educate yourself in the meantime on property investment. Because as soon as you start making 30 or 40 grand a year as an electrician, as a newly qualified electrician, you can do a lot with that in property.
It's got to go hand in hand, innit?
Yeah, exactly. And you could be doing your own rewires, if you're handy with electrics or plumbing, whatever, there's likelihood you'll be able to do a bit of joinery, a bit of this, bit of that. Because you do need to do that in the early days, I think. So yeah, that'd be get a trade, but educate yourself on property. That would be my advice.
Top man.